All right. Welcome, DoorGrow hackers, to the DoorGrow Show. If you are a property management entrepreneur that wants to add doors, make a difference, increase revenue, help others, impact lives, and you are interested in growing your business and life, and you are open to doing things a bit differently, then you are a DoorGrow hacker. DoorGrow hackers love the opportunities, daily variety, unique challenges, and freedom that property management brings. Many in real estate think you're crazy for doing it. You think they're crazy for not, because you realize that property management is the ultimate high trust gateway to real estate deals, relationships, and residual income. At DoorGrow, we are on a mission to transform property management businesses and their owners. We want to transform the industry, eliminate the BS, build awareness, change perception, expand the market, and help the best property management entrepreneurs win. I'm your host, property management growth expert, Jason Hull, the founder and CEO of DoorGrow. Now let's get into the show. And today's guest, I have a special guest hanging out with Patty Young. So Patty, welcome to the DoorGrow Show.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
So Patty, you are with a company called Pearson Smith Realty. And maybe you could give everyone a little bit of background on your experience in property management. How'd you get into this?
Oh, good Lord. Many years ago, I won't give out my age, but I always liked real estate, and I was renting a property. And I thought, well, and I was living in Montana at the time, and I thought, you know what, this can't be that bad. Let's try this out. And so I met the fellow who owned a complex, and that's where it all started.
All right. So were those famous last words?
No, it's been a real. I mean, I guess I'm one of the old people that started this long before we had cell phones and technology and crowdcasts and all this kind of stuff. So it's really been interesting watching it grow.
So, and so I want people to realize that you have single-handedly helped add a lot of doors to some property management businesses. So tell everybody a little bit about your kind of BDM sort of experience.
So I've been with I've done the franchise route as far as that's where I met you many years ago, and did that and grew it and worked with a lot of people in the franchise, which was great. And I was able to do a lot of training, and I'm a teacher by trade. So I go back to, I don't know, property management, I think, are protectors to some degree. And so the educating and teaching and trying to explain how to do things is just, I don't know, it's at the root of what I do. And I got to do a lot of training in the franchise world of property management, and it just kind of kept growing and growing. And it just seemed to make more and more sense.
Okay, great. And under, while you were working in that franchise, I think you added maybe about 600 or 700 units to the franchise. Yeah.
In about 4 years.
I'm trying to help you brag about yourself a little bit here. So yeah, in a relatively short period of time. And then, okay, great. So maybe a great place to start would be, what are some of the things, I think everybody listening would be curious, what are some of the things you've done to help grow a property management business? This is one of the big challenges.
One of the big things is talking. You got to be available on the phone and talking to people. I mean, all of the technology is great and having these drip emails and all that kind of stuff, but it comes down to the real relationship and being there when they need you. And it's not just, well, it's not the SEOs. It's not all that stuff. It's about a real person needing real services and, being able to help them when they need them. That's the basis of what we do.
So absolutely. So I think a lot of times we overcomplicate things in property management, and we think like we've got to automate everything, we've got to systemize everything, we've got to create a bunch of drip emails, we've got to do SEO, we've got to do pay-per-click, we've got all these crazy things that we're trying to implement and do. And then the challenge is that that we're missing the most important element, which property management, if you are a protector and you are taking care of people and taking care of a property, people don't buy property management. They really buy into a relationship with a property manager. And I think we lose sight of that sometimes. We think, well, I'm trying to sell my business to them. And really, they're not trying to buy your business. What they're trying to buy into is whether or not they can trust you to take care of their property and take
Oh,
care of home.
exactly. Yeah. And I think people, they're not confident enough sometimes. And they think, oh, I got to talk and I got to talk and talk and talk. And you never stop breathing. And then you've just like, I don't know, you become an elevator speech that everybody's saying. You just got to be yourself, and you got to be confident, and you got to feel good about what you do and the service that you provide, and the rest comes. And it is crazy how complicated people make it.
So, so it would probably be true then to say that as a property manager, if you're working on closing a deal or soliciting somebody to hopefully get their business, that you need to be asking a lot of questions.
You need to be asking more than you're talking. You
Yeah.
need them to talk. You need them to tell you their pain, where they're scared, and where you can come in to help them, and where you can support their needs. That's what they want to hear, even though that's not what you're hearing them ask.
What are your favorite questions to ask then during that sort of sales process, or maybe even an initial conversation to really identify where they're at and whether or not you can close that deal?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I think one thing, I want to get a rapport going as quickly as possible.
Hmm.
So tell me about yourself. I mean, that's kind of like the first thing. And they will start talking, and they'll tell you, oh, I just had a guy today. I'm moving to California. He's coming out by you. And he's got to move, and he's got this house, and there's no way he's going to sell it because he just bought it. And, and you just let them go. They will start answering all the questions themselves when you ask them, just tell me about yourself. What do I know? How can we support your needs? What is it you need? And let them ramble it out. And once they ramble it out, in your head, you're already knowing how to answer those questions, the holes in their life that you can plug.
Yeah, so they'll start to kind of help you identify some of their pain points. They'll start maybe even giving you some clue as to what they want. And really, the two things you need to know to close a deal are what problem do they have that you can solve? What's their pain? And what do they want?
Right.
And that's the outcome of solving that problem, and the pain and the pleasure. So if you have those two pieces, those elements, that can be really effective. I think a lot of times during the sales process, if we get too caught up on our own voice and what we want to say to them, we miss really digging into that pain, because the stronger we can really identify that pain and really connect with it, and the stronger we can really connect with what they want and really get clear on that and help them be really hyper aware of those things, the easier it is to close the deal. But if we go, yeah, 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 and gloss over it and move on to what we feel like we need to tell them or we want to say as a salesperson, then what ends up happening is they start tuning out. They are thinking you're just a commodity, like you're all the same. Every property manager is the same. And they probably heard that from most of the people they've talked to. Oh, well, we do this, and here's our fees, and here's how we do it. And we're going to do this, and we'll come out to your property. And they're thinking, well, what about my problem?
Right. And you just sound like a recording like everybody else. No. So when you're asking them, like the one I had today, he was asking about, so he's going to California. I said, wow, great. You know, what's prompting the move? Is it a job? Are you from there? Tell me about your trip to California and this new chapter in your life. And then all of a sudden it all just comes tumbling out. And it's allowing them to talk, and then at the right time, knowing when to, and you're not going to know until you know. And every human, luckily, is different and all that good stuff. And some people are very Excel spreadsheeties of the world. Some are the technical people. Some are more, they want the pictures, whatever. But you don't even know what
Mhm.
they are. So stop trying to sell that until you even identify what it is.
So do you feel like over time you've become really astute at understanding kind of different personality types? Because what it sounds like what you're saying is you're taking some time to get to know them, to build rapport, but it sounds like you kind of categorize people a little bit in your head as
I do.
certain personality types.
Oh, I do.
Okay.
Um,
So give us some examples of some different personality types that you maybe come across that are different. Like this gentleman from California, how would you kind of categorize him as different than somebody else that you might talk to?
he was right to business. He doesn't want any, he's no fancy pants. He just wants to know, all right, am I going to make my numbers? Is this going to work? What is my involvement in this? He was a straight
Brass
shooter.
tacks.
So, okay. So when he talked about himself and told me about what his needs were and what he did for a living and all these kinds of things, and every human is different. And I don't mean to stereotype, but you have to kind of figure out who your audience is.
Mm-hmm.
And so, well, then great. Now I know what's going to make this guy happy. Oh, we have this portal. Everything is there for you. You have an electronic filing cabinet. You're going to have monthly statement. And you go down, what they're really after that's going to make them happy. If it's a person who is more about, they're more about, oh my gosh, I'm so worried my house is going to be torn up. Or, if it's their baby and they just built it and they picked out every cabinet and all that kind of stuff, it's a different, softer approach because now you're dealing with the emotional side of
Mm-hmm.
the client. So you have to kind of figure out where they are because you don't know how to make them feel better unless you know what it is that's making them anxious.
Got it. So some people might be a little more on the analytical side. They might be a little more concerned about the numbers. You might have some people that are a bit more on the emotional side. Maybe the property is connected to a family member, or there's some history there emotionally, or there's some sort of pain that they're in and that emotionally that is connected to this. So one of my favorite follow-up questions during the sales process after I initially connect with people and get familiar with their situation is to ask why now, which is a great question just to
Uh-huh.
identify like why are you, so you've had this property for a while, why now, why is this an issue now? And then I get a whole different set of
Yes.
answers a lot of times.
Yeah.
Why now, why are you not, why now are you reaching out to get property management? You've obviously had this for a little while, or maybe you've been self-managing. What's sort of driving this?
Yeah.
And then you're going to get even more insight. They're going to share with you, and that's where usually I get the real pain answers when I ask that question. I've heard anything from I have cancer, or my family member just died, and then that to not know that information and to just keep plowing forward in a sales process almost seems insensitive sometimes when you really get
Yes.
to the bedrock of what's driving their decision making to reach out for help right now.
Absolutely. And now this guy, obviously, he's very excited. He's got a position in California, so he's changing coasts. He's not happy about having to pick up and move his family, but it's okay because he's leaving winter behind. He's happy to get rid of our cold.
Right.
We got more snow coming. That all makes him very happy. So that piece of it, is good for him. But then with that move comes the hardship because his brother's here. You have that to go with. So maybe I can just have my brother do it, right? And that comes into play as your why. So there's, I don't know, you just got to be yourself and be a person and listen. And if you're just a person listening versus this facade of some person that's just doing their job, walking in, you got to be confident and you got to care.
All right. So if you're confident and you care, what are some other ways that you are creating opportunities to start these relationships? Because I think a lot of people are like, if I get them on the phone, I hear this all the time. If I just get people on the phone, I can close them. I close everybody,
Right.
right? Which usually means they're closing all the word of mouth leads, which are easy to close.
Yes.
But the real concern they have is how do I get more conversations? And so how are you creating opportunities to have these relationships instead of just waiting for them to come to you?
So you've got to put yourself in positions around other people. So I do that through teaching. So I'm giving away a
Okay.
value to a lot of different offices. I'm giving away a value. I do a lot of different speaking engagements for free. Oops, sorry, no charges. Um,
Hmm.
because in doing so, then one, they look at you as an expert, right? Two, you're willing to give your free time and to help people and talk with them. And you just got to find places in your communities to kind of raise above and be there to volunteer. And when you become that person, I mean, I kind of look at it as I'm a farmer. It took me a long time to grow up to figure out what am I going to be, and I'm a farmer, right? So I like to grow
Okay.
businesses. I like to grow relationships, and well, what's a farmer's duty, right? So there's different kinds of farms. You can farm neighborhoods, right? You can farm HOAs. You can manage those if you want to. I personally don't like HOAs, but a lot of people do manage those. Are you doing more of a commercial management, a residential? There's different audiences. Are you looking for investors? So you kind of have to think somewhat here as to, and maybe you want all of them, right? But you're going to have to set a plan to decide where you're going to farm and where you're going to get these people from. And then once you do it, well, one of the duties or tasks, if you will, of a farmer is you get animals now. Okay, property managers, what kind of animals do you want, right? Are you raising, these investors? Are you doing accidental landlords? Are you looking for trustees? And I'm one of them, or one of our animals realtors. So I'm a real estate broker, but I do go to a lot of real estate events, and I do a lot of talking and a lot of chatting. You can, do NARPM events. You can do realtor associations. I mean, there's just so many different places that things are happening. You just got to get out of this chair and be out there where the people are, because they're not going to find you in your seat while you're sitting there talking on the phone.
Right. So I think one of the big challenges is that there's so much opportunity in the property management industry. There's such a high percentage in the US that are not using property management, that are self-managing. And yet you have so many property managers that are just looking over their shoulder at back and forth at everybody else going, what are you doing to wait for leads and wait for business to come to you? And they're hoping that they can take money and just hand it to a marketer, and suddenly people will just walk in the door and say, take my money. And you're out there actively doing what I coach clients to do. You're actively out there creating business instead of waiting for it to come to you.
Yeah. Eventually it comes to you. Once you get
Eventually
enough
it
of it
does.
going and you
You
become,
build that engine.
yes, you can get that going, but you can't every day. You should have prospecting time, whatever that is. If you're going to spend 2 hours every day, if you're spending 4, whatever it is you want to grow to or do, that's your call.
Mm-hmm.
But you got to have that dedicated and that discipline to do it. Because if you don't, the time just whips on by.
So let's create a little bit of perspective here. So how much time, it's taken you a little while, but when you start out in a new market, which you've done several times, when you start out in a new market and you decide you're a farmer, using this analogy, and it's time to farm, and you're looking at the field and you feel like you need to get things started. How much time do you start spending in a week on prospecting, or maybe in a day?
Well, I mean, today's world is so different from what it used to be. So now, I mean, look, you got meetups, you got crowdcasts, you got podcasts, you got all this stuff out there. So you've got to kind of quiet the noise down and start. You got to start somewhere, and don't be afraid to start, because that's the other problem, right? So, okay, maybe you just say, I'm going to pick this neighborhood. Okay, great. And in this neighborhood, I can do a little research and see that there are, I don't know, 5,000 houses, and okay, in this development. So how do I reach out to these people? Okay, maybe you go and you meet the HOA people. They got different events that happen. So you want to be part of all that. There's usually some businesses nearby that you can be part of. So, once I've identified, let's say you're going to take this area, you want to at least be putting in, I mean, at a minimum, I would say at least 3 hours a day. If you're going to do an 8 hour, let's just say, I think there should be at least 3 hours of that as prospecting.
So probably about 15 hours in a week.
And depending on how much you want to grow and how fast you want it to go. Sometimes growing too fast isn't good.
Right. So then you'd be able to handle it and manage it successfully and deal with each new property they're bringing on, each new owner they're bringing on, and onboard them effectively.
If you're going to promise something, you better do it.
Right. Yeah. So if they, they could start farming neighborhoods. They could start reaching out. They can start hitting up some groups in the area. How much time are you spending now that you've kind of primed this engine in the business that you're in now, towards prospecting?
Probably at least the same, if not more. So I don't, there's very little internet lead leading or any of that going on. At this point, I'm just, I'm churning it, right? I've got people coming in. I've talked to some, you have to nurture some, all that kind of stuff. But you can never stop this. You can't ever get happy like, oh, I got these 3 coming, so I'm all good. Like a realtor will, oh, I got these 3 commissions. They're going to closing. I'm all good. No, you can't sit back and relax. There's no relax. You got to keep it going. And sometimes it's evenings, weekends, whatever it is. And of course, there's seasonal in this too. So you have to be, watching that. But you can never stop prospecting. Because even if you're happy and you have, like, maybe your goal was 100 doors and you're happy with 100, they're not going to stay with you. That roller coaster is going to start moving. Somebody's going to sell, move back. So it's constantly changing.
Right. So the sales has to outpace the churn, and yeah, and the doors getting sold, and so on. So, and I think you bring up a good point in that if you don't have consistent prospecting and consistent lead gen systems in place where you're doing it consistently, and then what ends up happening is usually it creates a sales slump. Maybe it's like and those last for maybe a month to 90 days typically. And they're difficult to crawl out of because you'll build up the pipeline and then you have deals kind of closing. And if you get comfortable and turn that off, what you're doing is you're creating a problem a month to 2 months later in which you're going to have a sales slump. You're going to have less cash flow coming in. You're going to have less new clients coming in, and it's going to get quiet. And then you're going to hi ho silver, and you'll
Yeah,
see salespeople hi ho silver. They jump on the horse and they're like, I'm going to ride this hard and I'm going to figure this out and do sales, sales, sales. And then they come across almost needy, and needy in sales is creepy.
very
And
creepy.
then then the problem is they're it starts to get scary for them. So then
You're
it gets
panicking.
like, yeah, they start to panic. And so they can avoid these sales slumps by creating some consistency, even if they're only able to dedicate a small number of hours a day, or even just an hour a day, as long as they have some consistency throughout the week, that they don't just shut it off for half the month or shut it off for a month.
Yes.
They should consistently be able to generate leads, and they have no control when those deals will really close.
No,
But if they aren't doing it, those deals won't be closing.
well, yeah, there's zero. And even like in the classes that I teach and things, I might get one or two leads that day, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I don't know what's coming. You cast out the net, right? You see what we bring in. But I didn't want to do it. It was like early December. It was a bad time of year, but they really wanted me to come do this. And I was like, you know what? Absolutely. I'll be there. Now, didn't think it was going to be much of a turnout, but you never know. You never know. And it turned out there were 4 people. I was like, bonus, right? Four
Yeah,
people.
pretty small.
Cool. That's all right. I can do four. I can do four. It doesn't matter. But of the four, I got three. So who'd have
No
known?
kidding.
Yeah, no. I mean, it was awesome. And even the lady that was doing the event, turns out she was convinced and she decided to give me her house to manage. So you never
Nice.
know what's out there. So you have to, and if you're not out there, you're not getting anything. So, um,
I think there's a direct ratio between the level of connection and the level of intimacy in a sales situation and the close rate. And so it's not just about numbers, it's not about how many people show up, but like you said, it's about how well you're able to connect with those people. And so the smaller the group, the more intimate that communication can turn. Like if you're working with one-on-one with somebody, I'm sure it's a very intimate conversation. It's
right,
personally about them and their pain, as we talked about at the beginning. You have 3 or 4 people, it gets a little bit more broad. You're doing it to an entire room. There's some authority there, and that's nice. But you're going to then have to do follow up to create that intimacy and
correct.
create that connection afterwards, which is really important in those situations. But you then are getting to do one to many sales and establish yourself as an authority in front of them. So,
And you didn't cancel. I mean, they were expecting that you're going to cancel and bail, and that would stop you from getting the next gig. Right? These are all
yeah,
gigs. We're constantly going after these gigs, and you cancel on one, and yeah, do I really want to get out there at 7 o'clock at night? Could I
right.
maybe do more work on the side? Yeah, but no. I mean, the in front of people makes a huge difference. And I tell you, some people don't think about it, but if you've gone on a meeting, you've tried and you've lost, you need to ask why. At
Hmm.
this point, oh, I've signed up another company. Okay, can you tell me just so I can make better my business? What is it that made you decide to go with them and not with me? Or it's a hard question to ask. Like, why didn't you like me?
Yeah,
Right? But you have to ask the question. What was it? Was it my perfume? Was it, what was it? But you have to ask, because if they say, well, the other guy seemed more confident, well, now you know what to work on. You need that constructive criticism. But most
yeah.
people don't want to ask because they just want to feel that, they didn't fit anyway. I don't want them. Well, may or may not. But if you don't ask, you never know. And then you can't improve.
Yeah. Feeling safe asking for feedback is a huge superpower, I feel like, for business owners. Not being willing to palate, or not being able to palate or digest or absorb or take in feedback is a dangerous thing. And so I honestly feel like I've built my company on thousands of failures. And so being able to get feedback and make mistakes and to keep moving forward as a business owner is huge. And if you don't get a deal, there's some awesome feedback waiting for you that you could potentially gain from them. And so I love that idea. So, and sometimes it's as simple as just sending an email follow-up, or, hey, just honestly, like, could you tell me
Be
like why
brutal.
you went with this
Yeah.
other company? Like, you won't hurt my feelings. It would help us, if it's that you could do to help us improve, it'd be great. And
You're
people
asking
love
for a
sharing
favor.
advice.
Yeah. And if you put it that way, look, I just need a favor. I know that you're going with XYZ, but I would just so be appreciative if you could give me some constructive criticism. Like, what exactly was it? Was
Yeah.
I 10 minutes late? You didn't like that? Was it you don't like our pricing? You don't like, what is it? What exactly, what swooed you? What was it? And maybe it was just, I have no idea. I just like this guy better. Okay. That's fine,
Yeah.
right? I'm okay with that. But if I don't ask, I never know. And if you don't know, you don't improve. It's kind of like they used to say, listen to your sales pitch over, and nobody likes to hear their own voice. And no one wants to hear why they're not picking you, but you need to.
Yeah, I mean, if we're really honest with ourselves, and we really do want to make money, and we really do want to know, like, we really do want to know, why didn't they go with us? And so being willing to be vulnerable and ask for that feedback can be really powerful. And surprisingly, when you do that, it gives you ideas. It's like, here's how to win more business.
Uh-huh.
And sometimes it's as simple. Sometimes the things that they use as deciding factors are so simple
Oh,
to
I
add in.
know.
They're so simple that you're kicking yourself. You're like, oh, really? That's it? All
All
right,
they
I'm going
did
to
was
mention that
listen.
on every call. Like, it's
I
really
know.
simple.
Yeah. And you're not going to know if you don't ask, right? You got to ask.
Right. So one of my favorite tactics, though, if I don't get a deal, is to leave the door open for the future. And so why'd you go somebody else? Oh, great. I really appreciate that feedback. If things don't go well with this company, or you have any trouble, or this happens, or this, we will still be here, ready and willing to take your business and help you, and in the future, and I love just leaving that door open. I don't want them to feel like, well, they shut the door on me, and we're dead. They're dead to me.
No, because it
So I
takes
think creating that anchor for the possible future, because I've had clients go with another company, have happen exactly what I had explained to them would happen. And they come back and, like, you were right. And I would love to work with you guys.
well, because they're not ready to hear it yet. They haven't reached
Yeah.
the point of what you're telling. They can't absorb what you're telling them yet. So they have
Yeah.
to
They don't
mature.
believe it. They haven't experienced it. And they have to go experience that.
Yeah.
They have to go try out the cheapest property manager, or the cheapest website company, or the cheapest whatever
Whatever it
marketing
is.
firm. So they got to go try out somebody and test out stuff, because they believe they know better. And then as soon as they realize that they don't know better, or they didn't know something, or something blindsides them, or they've run into a snag that you had kind of mentioned or foretold, you've created this powerful anchor that they're going to remember you.
And
And the
it's
moment that happens,
Oh yeah, and it's great because, and you have to leave it open to the point that they're not going to like. A lot of people don't want to ask the question why they didn't get it. Same thing is, you have to
mm,
let them be comfortable to come back to you, because you're not going to say I told you so, right? So it has to be a
yeah,
very open. And I always say, look, I'm a sounding board, right? If anything happens in the future, and sometimes I'm gonna do it myself. You have those people of the world, and you have those that go to the bare minimum bones. I'm glad they can help you for that price. It's not something that we can do, but if something should change and down the road, or you have questions or something odd comes up, you got my number. Please and I sit there with them. Can you put me in your phone, please? And I make them do it while we're there, so that
I
otherwise
love it.
you
Get
don't
the
know if they're going to
glue.
put you in there. You're gone. They're going to forget. So I said, here, put me in there, and I watch them put my number in there if it's not already. And if it is already, I just say, just put next to my name, call her. And he was like, what? I said, well, down the road, if something comes up, you can say, oh yeah, I was supposed to call her. You can search and find me. Like, okay, but it works because you have to, it's kind of like when you have a little child that, they can't, they're just not mature enough to understand maybe how to tie a shoe or whatever. They just
Yeah,
mentally can't do it. They just can't happen. So
yeah.
these people are not going to be able to get where you're at yet. And you got to understand that. It's okay. They will mature eventually, and we'll see what happens. But making them put you in their phone is like, ooh, gotta be in that phone, because they'll never find me if I'm not in their phone.
Such a little hack, and I can see how effective that would be. Yeah. So as soon as you have this problem, you're creating this anchor. As soon as you have this problem or you run into this, or if you run into any issues, I am available for feedback. You don't even have to remember my name. Just call her in here. And remember, you call her and just plug it in. And you walk them through making sure they get it in their phone.
Oh yeah.
They're going to do it. They're going to want to cause they want to finish the conversation. They want to be done, and you're hanging out with them or you're talking with them, enter this into your phone. Another tactic is you could say, what's your phone number? I'm going to text message you right now. And then you have my phone number, enter this number in, or however you want to do it. And just make sure that they get in, you get them into the phone. And
That's the
then
new Rolodex.
yeah. And then send them a follow-up email after that and say, just in case you ever lose my contact details, here is my information. Here's my direct number to reach me if you run into any problems. And I love the idea you mentioned being a sounding board. I think a lot of property managers are so focused on getting the deal, but what they really need to start with is being a resource.
Yes. Yeah. And I always tell them, look, you got my experience at your disposal. All right. So you're doing your research. I mean, that's great. And of course, we all have availabilities on a computer to do some research. Oh, great. If I need to get a roof, I'm going to do some research, whatever it is. Right. And that's all great. Hey, absolutely. I do the same thing. I said, but look, if you hear something from one of the other companies that you're shopping or something doesn't make sense because you got to peel back some onions to get down to how are you really comparing here, apples to apples, call me. Right. And I'll answer whatever it is. There's no cost to you. You're just going to call me and ask me a question. And usually they do. And while they're still, maybe you met with them, but they're not going to be moving for 6 months, or it could be one of these long nurtures or whatever. They'll come up to something. They'll go, hey, so-and-so told me this, but you told me that by the law it was this. So what really is it? I'll say, oh, absolutely. Let me send you the statute. And then all of a sudden, right, you're on top again because they're constantly doing the comparing. Guess what? I got the law that states this is what it is. Now Patty wins. I like it when Patty wins.
And I'm sure in some of those situations, you've gotten the deal just because you actually showcased your expertise. They gave you that chance.
Yeah, it's amazing what, even in today's day and age, how much out there is just, I don't know, make believe and fluff, where agent said this was it, or this one said this was it, and all of a sudden that becomes a new law, and it's not. And there's a lot of it out there, and so unfortunately people get a way of doing stuff and they keep doing it, but they don't invest in themselves enough to continue the training or to go to classes or just become smarter at it, or at least the updates or something. And so those agents, and even when I'm working with them, I can look them up in our MLS system and I look and see when something starts to, you get that gut feeling. I'll look them up and I'll just say, oh, okay, well, they haven't done a rental deal since 1997. So now I know better how to work with this agent to make this deal get through.
Right.
So knowing what you're dealing with helps.
So how much time do you invest in making sure that you're on top of the industry, that you know what the latest laws are, that you know what's up with property management in your state? How much time are you investing on a regular basis towards this? How do you stay connected to all of that?
I'm probably obsessed with it more than most. Well, because if we're here to, my job is to protect your property, protect you. How am I going to do that if I don't know what all this stuff is? So actually, I was on the phone yesterday with one of the attorneys, and a simple little thing as an example. A lot of it, every state's different, but the pet addendum that's used in our state does not have a sentence that's needed to be there that says pet, like a tenant signing off, pet does not have a bite history. One sentence. That's all we need. That's it. Because the insurance companies, with all of our emotional supports and our service animals and all of this, they've gone away from that dirty dozen. They're not borrowing any animals anymore. They're going by bite history. So why doesn't our form have that? So I'm like, hello, boom. So I do volunteer with our associations. I volunteer on their education committees, on the fair housing task forces, the forms committees, all that kind of stuff, so that knowing where we need to make sure it's pushed through, one, and two, finding out what they're up to and what we're going to get, right, is another. And, fighting for what we need. And if you're staying in tune and you're involved in these organizations, it's all volunteer. So you don't get paid for this kind of stuff, but you volunteer. NARPM's another one. So heavily involved in NARPM and trying to make sure all that's going through. So you just got to find out what's around you, volunteer, get into it. And then, it doesn't take, I mean, I guess I've never really sat down how many hours, it takes. Some of it just comes up and there's a need for it. So the right people to call and say, how do I do it? And even if you don't know, maybe you're brand new, just moved here. Okay, well, who's the realtor association? Okay, well, who's the property management companies? Where's the NARPM groups? Where's this? Where's that? Some of it is research, right? You got to find out, how do you know, who do you know to call, right? So find
Mhm.
out and then say, how do I volunteer to get on the, to sit in the meetings? And then pretty soon it just builds its way from there.
So I've heard you mention a few things. So you've mentioned you talked to an attorney. So you've got some attorneys that you're connected to that you leverage as a resource. You mentioned NARPM, which you use as a resource. You mentioned real estate or realtor associations
Mm-hmm.
and being connected to those. And then you also mentioned doing your own research. And so and overall, you said you're obsessed. And I think that's important. If there's one thing you should be obsessed about as a property manager, it's being able to effectively solve people's problems. That's what exists, is to solve
Yes.
somebody's problems. And if you are obsessed with doing it correctly and solving people's problems, that gives you a lot of confidence going into a sales conversation, I would imagine.
Yeah, and there's so many, chat groups and Facebook groups and, all this. But the other thing too is make sure that you're not listening to the players of the world. So if I'm listening to people telling me
Mm-hmm.
things that aren't the real source, then I'm learning it wrong, which is the one reason I
Right.
teach, and I have my own real estate school to teach it right. But if you're
Mm-hmm.
listening to the wrong sources, then now what? I had a call today from a fella. He used to own a property management company, known him for years. And he was in a meeting. I won't say which company he's with now. Anyway, and he's just doing real estate. He's not doing management. And he goes, hey, I thought, years ago we did this, that, we weren't allowed to give out the credit reports. And I said, depends on your contract. He's like, yeah, but they're saying da da da. And I said, who are you listening to? What? Wait a minute. Why am I not a speaker there? When's the next meeting? And that was my question to him. And he goes, oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. Okay. Can you do April? I said, give me a date, baby. So when I find out, and it doesn't matter whose name's on the doors, when I find out that there's stuff happening that I know is incorrect based upon me being around the right sources and the smart people, then I want to go fix it before they all start it. Because when we're running these properties, we're very real estate driven. I mean, everything's done through the MLS here. So I'm going to bump into these
Yeah.
agents. I don't want them doing it wrong because it makes my job harder. Plus, I want the
So
referrals.
so as soon as you identify that somebody is inaccurate in maybe landlord tenant law or in process, you leverage that as an opportunity to go and speak to them and to educate and to teach, which then feeds you referrals.
I attack it. I'll bring the
Okay,
cookies.
this is
I'll bring
fun.
the donuts, whatever. Let's go. Give me a date now.
Yeah, yeah. So they have a question. You're like, you have an audience. I'll come answer that question and I'll give you even more value. I love it.
And it's funny because it all just kind of evolved when I was doing the franchise pieces. I met a lot of great people all over the world, literally all over the world, but especially all over our great country. And it just became, they would have something come up. Patty, can you give me help? Can you help me? Yeah, what's going on? And because we were the same franchise, it was easy for me to answer a lot of questions. So I kind of became the 911 or the 411 when they would ask questions. And
Yeah.
it was awesome. And then I started training with them too. And, I enjoy it. I enjoy fixing people's problems. And so, well, I'm one of 9 children, so I got on the job training, you see. My dad's an engineer and my mom's incredible. So you learn this stuff. But,
Yeah.
some of it is just, and there's a lot of realtors here that have called me on different things. And when they call, or when you work with a realtor on something, if you are dealing with that, ask them. There's the ask. You got to ask, what do you guys do for
Hmm.
training? And they're going to come back and say, oh, well, what do you mean? All we do is a rental deal. I know, but like, you guys do property management in your office? Are you asking these questions? Because that's another opportunity of a source. And most people get the deal done, they move on, they don't even think twice about it. But you can get
Right. So
feedback.
you'll ask them, how are you handling leases? How are you handling property management related things?
Mhm.
And as soon as you notice there's problems, you use that as leverage to say, hey, maybe I should come teach a class to you guys. Let me come share some ideas with you.
All I need is a little
And
crack in the door.
yeah, Got it. And then you're in. So it's a magical and powerful thing if you can immediately shift yourself with any prospect or a referral partner into the category of an advice giver.
Oh yeah.
As soon as you're there, you are in a position of authority that and a position of trust, and that is what creates deals. Sales happens at the speed of trust.
Yes.
And so you kind of can skip right to the top simply by shifting yourself and positioning yourself into a position of being able to give them advice, and that instantly establishes you as a trustworthy person in their mind that you can now give them, information and value, and they're receiving information and value, and they're going, once you give them value, then it's a lot easier for you to get value from them.
Oh yes.
And
And then you
as
got to find
always.
out too. So now that let's say you go to their April meeting, right? Okay, you've done their
Yeah.
meeting. So can I come back next April? When's your next meeting? Just because you did the one, you can't stop. It's follow up. The laws.
Yeah.
So our laws in Virginia, they change every 6 months. So I need to come here every 6 months so that I can keep you guys abreast of it, right? Because the brokers don't want to do
Nice.
it. So you have to make sure you're cycling there every 6 months.
Yeah. So don't just give up after you do it once and you're like, well, I did this. Hooray. You might be leaving a lot on the table if you don't then just simply ask, all right, can I do this again? The laws are always changing. Things are always coming out. I'd love to come right back, and I'll put you in my calendar and follow up with you, and let's do this again. And they'll probably say, yeah, this has been great. We had a good experience. We would love to. And if you don't ask, then odds are they're going to be focused on their own problems and their own business and their own things. And they're not just going to go, maybe we should invite Patty back. I wonder what's going on in property management law lately.
Well, and they're not going to call you unless there's a problem. The other thing is like when you go to the dentist, before you leave, they have you book, oh, how are you doing in June or whatever? They already have you booked
Yeah.
for the next one. So before you
Oh,
leave
yeah.
that office or whatever grouping you're doing, you should already be booking your next event. It's a new gig. Get that new gig set up.
Cool. Really smart. So, what do you do at these events to make sure that you're able to follow up and connect with people after the event?
Some events they do registration so that I have all the information. Some don't. So if they don't, I need to, sign up. Always give a raffle giveaway. Everybody puts their cards in. If they don't have cards, I have index cards. So they put all their information on it. If it doesn't have an email and a phone number, it doesn't count. You can't be pulled. So if they want the freebie, they're going to put them both in, and I want them both. I want a cell phone and I need an email. Otherwise,
Perfect.
whatever. I can find the rest out on the internet as to where you live and all that kind of stuff. But it depends on the audience. If I'm in with realtors, they love their toys. They're going to hand me their cards. If I'm working with, I do a lot of stuff to, it's a landlord lessons. So I do a series out with landlords. I have all kinds of different people come join me, different, partners I'll partner with. If it's just a landlord, they may not have a business card. Maybe they don't want to give me their work stuff. So I always have index cards and I have them already ready to go.
Mhm.
Phone, email, name, boom. It's all you need. Otherwise, you can't win this $100 gift card. And everybody wants a $100 gift card. So in they go.
Cool. So you're kind of gamifying the whole situation a little bit too, just to make it playful.
Yeah.
Oh,
People
yeah.
have to want to do stuff and they want to be told. I mean, they just do. Kids will tell you they don't, but they do. They really do. And,
Yeah.
and adults do too. You go to the DMV. You don't have to go anymore. But when you did go, you had that. I always feel like a DMV person when I'm doing the W-9 form because they would highlight that one spot. They highlight where your thing is and your phone number and all that kind of stuff. And it's
Yeah.
great. So it's like, okay, here's what I need. And they just look at you like, oh, she said so. And they fill it out and they give it to you. Just
Yeah.
tell them
You
to do
just
it.
do
They
it.
will.
This is what I need from you.
Mm-hmm.
Here you go.
Here's
Everybody
how we
do
do it.
this.
Yep.
And they just do it. They're like, okay.
Yep. But the
And
biggest compliment I think I've
you're
ever,
like the Pied Piper.
well, and one of the biggest compliments I ever got, and I didn't even know, is my son has become a realtor, which he's crazy. And I told him
Mhm.
that. And I didn't know he was listening. Like you're in the car, you're with mom, you hear all this stuff, right? And you
Yeah.
figure they're not listening. They do listen. Anyway, I used to tell him, like I'd be talking to someone and, when I have papers that need filled out that I'm actually meeting in person, I highlight everything. It's all ready to go. It's easy as
Mhm.
pie. Here's your pen. Follow the yellow brick road and everything is all done, right? And I heard him repeat that. I was like, oh my gosh, there we go, right? That's one of the biggest compliments you can get is when somebody repeats what you said. And he goes, well, I told him to follow the yellow brick road. And I went on his first listing with him, and that's what he told the client. I'm like,
Yellow highlighter. Follow the yellow brick road.
Yes. That's
Love
all I
it.
need is these signatures.
So Patty, I think you've shared several cool little hacks. So and ideas. It's really clever. So and I think all this is very helpful for property managers that are seeking to cultivate relationships, which eventually leads to contracts. Is there any other recommendations or any other challenges you're noticing among property management business owners that are struggling to grow that they should be paying attention to do this?
One hack that I've seen that's not good, that is
Mm.
out there, that they might, I don't know if they're aware of it or it's happening near them, but it's not for growth, it's more for protection. But a lot of people, we have identity theft, right? It's all over,
Mm-hmm.
right? So what a lot of people have done to save it, instead of paying money to some of these companies, is they just frozen their credit. If they're not buying anything, they just freeze it, therefore they know they're protected. But what's happening is we have people who are putting applications in our, there's 5 million different softwares out there, right? So they put,
Mm-hmm.
and most people are doing applications online. I actually agree with that. So the application comes in, and what's happening is the people with really bad credit are freezing the credit. So when we pull the application and we run it, it comes up as NA. We don't see that they have 14 late payments. We don't see that they have 2 charge-offs and 3 bankruptcies and all that kind of stuff, because it comes up as an NA.
Yeah.
People assume, oh, well, based on the birth date, they just don't have enough credit established, so it's coming up as NA. Not true.
Mm.
They're freezing it, so they're bypassing our system, which is pretty smart when you think
Yeah.
about it, right? I mean, it's pretty,
Sneaky. Yeah.
yeah, it's pretty slick. So what I've done, and everybody can do, is just add one sentence to your application that says, have you frozen your credit? If so, please unfreeze before applying. Because if they've lied on the application, right, now that affects them getting the lease. But it's a pretty slick little smart way. I'll give them credit for that, because by freezing it, no, and I can't tell you how many people have gotten by with it. Because most owners, so if I'm telling you, Jason, well, they don't have any credit based on the score, and they really don't have any debt, just haven't established yet according to the agent, but they make this much money and they're going to come in and take care of your house and da da da. And the agents, property managers tell them the truth, you might buy that. But if I tell you the credit scores are 420 and they have 18 collections and all this kind of stuff, you're going to say no way. So I give them an A for effort. However, they're not getting past us. So if somebody puts that on their
So you
application,
broke up just a little bit. So if they, on the converse side, if they have a credit of 420, then are you still there?
there you are. If they have a 420,
Yeah, if they have a credit score of 420, what then?
well, you're probably going to say no. If
Yeah,
I tell you NA, they just don't have any versus a 420, you might be willing
sure.
to accept the NA, but you're not going to take the 420. So it's a pretty
Yeah, yeah.
slick little racket they got going on. But the way to, all you have to
Mm.
do is add one question to the application, and then now you got it. And then the other part too is there are some people that, we have a lot of military and government being here near DC, so we have a lot of people moving, and they maybe forgot they've frozen it. And I don't want to run the credit, and then it comes up nothing, then we have to go back again. So by asking that question, if it's a legitimate person that has done so, they can see on there, oh wow, oh, we froze it, we got to fix it, and they'll fix it before they apply. So it's a good thing, but it's been used in
Yeah,
a little interesting hack, if you will.
got it. All right. Patty, all this has been super informative. I agree with you that property management is about relationships. People need to be getting out there, creating relationships, connecting with people. There's so much blue ocean and opportunity available that just waiting for leads to come to you is probably not a great growth strategy in general. And I know you've had phenomenal growth in all the businesses that you've been affiliated with because of these methods. So I think everybody should pay attention and listen to Patty. And if anybody has some questions for you or wants to reach out to you, how can they get a hold of you?
My simplest email is realtorp, as in Patty Young, at gmail.com. Or you can reach me on my cell number, or I'm on Facebook. I'm on your stuff, of course. Actually, I was thinking, Jason, that was back with Open Potion. Were you living in Idaho or somewhere at the
I
time?
was, yeah.
Is that
I'm
where it
in
was?
Southern California now.
I know, but I think was it Idaho? Trying to remember. It was,
Yeah.
gosh, that was like in, oh, what year was that?
I don't know. That was a while
A
ago.
long time ago, long time ago. So it's so cool to have relationships from long to be old enough to have a relationship with someone like you back then, and you had the dreams and the ideas to do this, and then to actually see you do it is awesome.
I appreciate that. I think we've probably known each other for about a decade.
Gosh, it probably
I
has
mean,
been.
realistically. Yeah, because I helped my brother Bryant with his business originally, probably back in 2008.
I was going to say 7 or 8 was probably it. Yeah,
And then you were one of the early clients I think that we worked with
and you did an
way back
awesome
when.
job
So
back then. Even see when you were just starting out on this, it was awesome. So
we've learned a lot since then, a lot. So
yeah, it's crazy.
like I said, 1,000 or more mistakes.
No, no, it's all
Built
good.
it,
It's all
yeah,
good. If we don't fall, we don't get up. So
yeah,
gotta
yeah. Always learning. So, well, Patty, it's been great having you on the show. Appreciate you coming out, and
absolutely,
I wish you continued awesome growth and success.
and yourself as well.
All
Thank
right,
you.
thanks, Patty. Okay, cool. So, everybody watching this show, please be sure to check out the community that we have going on online, which Patty had sort of mentioned on Facebook, which is our DoorGrow Club. You can get to that by going to doorgrowclub.com. And if you are a property management business owner and you are looking to add doors and grow your business, that is an awesome community of people that are helpful. And then if you want some help figuring out how to grow your business, you want to align and clean up your sales pipeline, clean up the major leaks that are limiting organic growth and preventing you from being able to really capitalize on a lot of the things that Patty was discussing, then reach out to us at DoorGrow. This is what we focus on, is helping you align your business so that you can create new revenue and create more growth and maximize, each door that you have. And so you can get to us just by going to doorgrow.com. And I'm Jason Hull with the DoorGrow Show. And until next time, to our mutual growth, everybody. Goodbye.